All right, so let's take a look here at questions 30 and 31, and maybe a few more after this in this one video. But 30 and 31 here are asking us to add or subtract as indicated. And so for this first one here, 30, we are asked to subtract. So we're just subtracting polynomials. And since we're subtracting, let's go ahead and put our minus sign. And it's important to put the second equation, the equation that you're subtracting, in parentheses, because if you'll recall, what does it mean when we have a negative out in front of an expression with parentheses? Well, it means that we have to distribute this minus sign all the way through, doesn't it? And so that's going to change the sign of everything behind it. So really we have 11y to the third plus 3y minus 5. And now that we've distributed this negative, we have minus 8y to the third. And then negative times positive 11 is minus 11y. And negative times a positive 11 is negative 11. And now we can go ahead and just perform the operation that's indicated. So 11y to the third minus 8y to the third is going to give us 3y to the third, and then positive 3y minus 11y is going to give us negative 8y, and negative 5 minus 11 gives us a negative 16. All right, so when you are subtracting, just make sure, no matter if you are stacking the two equations like we are here, or whether you're writing both equations or expressions rather on one single line, if you are subtracting a group of terms from another group, make sure that you wrap that second group, whatever you're subtracting, in parentheses and distribute your negative through. Otherwise, you'll end up with a wrong answer. Okay, and number 31 here, we're just adding, so we don't have to worry about changing the sign of anything. And we're just going to do straight addition. So 7a to the fifth plus 4a to the fifth, well, that's going to give us 11a to the fifth. And then negative 7a to the third plus 2a to the third is going to give us minus 5a to the third. And that is all we have to do for number 31. We just did straight addition. All right, I think we'll go ahead and take a look at a few more here, because I think the next several, let me take a look here on the practice exam. Yeah, I think through 34 we can look at. All right, so here we are still adding and subtracting, except now we have our two expressions written on a single line, right? Whereas before here with number 30, we stacked the two expressions and then distributed our negative sign. Well, here we have our negative sign, and then the second the second expression that we are actually subtracting on the same line. So again, we're going to take this negative and distribute it through, which is just going to change the sign of everything behind it. So we can go ahead and get rid of this first set of parentheses, because out front there's no negative. And so since there's nothing out front to distribute, we can go ahead and get rid of the first set of parentheses. So we have negative 3 to the third plus 8x to the fifth minus 7 plus 2x to the fourth. And now let's go ahead and rewrite this second string of terms, our second expression here, taking in account this negative sign that we're going to distribute. So negative times a negative, well, that's going to give us now a positive 9. And negative times a positive 8x to the fourth is now negative 8x to the fourth. And negative times positive 2x to the fifth is now negative 2x to the fifth. And negative times negative is going to be a positive 8x to the third. All right, so now we have this long string of terms here. Let's go ahead and combine like terms where we can. And let's start with the highest degree. And it looks like the highest degree we have is a 5. So I see 8x to the fifth, which is positive, and then a minus 2x to the fifth. Well, 8x to the fifth minus 2x to the fifth gives us 6x to the fifth. And now let's cross out those two terms so we know not to use them again. And then the next degree down is going to be a fourth degree. And so I see a 2x to the fourth and a minus 8x to the fourth. So that's going to be minus 6x to the fourth, because 2 minus 8 gives us that negative 6. Crossing those terms out. And the next degree down is going to be a cube. So let's see, a negative 3x to the third plus 8x to the third. That's going to be a plus 5x to the third. Get rid of those two terms. And let's see, we have a negative 7 plus 9. It's going to be a positive 2. All right, and that is our final answer. And it's always a good idea to write your final answer in descending order as far as degrees. So 5, 4, 3. We don't have a square and we don't have just a single variable. And so after the cube would come the constant. All right, and let's look at 33. All right, so add or subtract is indicated. Well, this time we are adding, right? So we don't have anything to distribute. And so in this case, we can drop the set of parentheses for both of these expressions here. And so that leaves us with minus 4 plus 5x to the 7th plus 7x to the 9th minus 6x to the 8th, and then plus, and now just get rid of the parentheses because we don't have to worry about changing the signs of anything. So whatever the sign is inside the set of parentheses is what it will remain. So 8x to the 8th minus 2x to the 7th plus 7 plus 9x to the 9th. All right, so let's go ahead and let me make sure I didn't skip any. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And is that how many terms we have here? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so we got them all. Now let's start and combine like terms, but we're going to start with the highest degree, the highest power, and I think that's going to be a 9. So we have a positive 7x to the 9th plus 9x to the 9th. That's going to give us a 16x to the 9th. So let's get rid of those two terms so we don't reuse them. And the next power down, the next degree, is going to be 8. So we have a negative 6x to the 8th plus 8x to the 8th. So that's going to be a positive 2x to the 8th. And the next degree down will be our 7. And I see a 5x to the 7th minus 2x to the 7th. So plus 3x to the 7th. And lastly here we have a negative 4 plus 7, so that's going to give us a positive 3. All right, and so we end up with 16x to the 9th plus 2x to the 8th plus 3x to the 7th plus 3. And again, we wrote our final answer in descending order of power, of degrees, with our constant at the end. All right, and I think we can go to the next one, number 34, because again, we are still adding and subtracting. But we do have a minus here, don't we? So we are subtracting this expression from this expression, and since we have a minus here, we're going to have to distribute this negative through, which is going to change the sign of everything behind it. All right, so because there's nothing out front, again, for this first string of terms, this first expression, we can go ahead and just drop these parentheses and not worry about changing the signs. So we have 11x to the 8th plus 8x to the 6th minus 3x squared plus 2. And now let's go ahead and figure out what is going to come next, factoring in this negative here. So we have a negative times a positive 9x to the 8th, so that's going to be minus 9x to the 8th. Distributing this negative to a negative, we're going to have plus 7x to the 5th. And then negative times positive is going to be negative 5x squared. And negative times negative will give us a positive 4. All right, and again, we're getting used to this now. We're going to combine like terms, starting with the highest power. And it looks like that's going to be 8. So we have 11x to the 8th minus 9x to the 8th. It's going to give us 2x to the 8th. And dropping a power, looks like the next is going to be a 6. And I only see one term with a 6, so that's just going to come down itself and then go away. And after the 6 will come our 5. I don't see any other terms with a 5th power, and so our 7x x to the 5th will just come down. From our 5, it looks like the next will be a 2, but I do see two terms that have a power of 2. So we have negative 3x squared minus 5x squared. It's going to give us negative 8x squared. And lastly, we have a 2 and a 4. Add those together, we get 6. And there we have our final answer, the expression 2x to the 8th plus 8x to the 6th plus 7x to the 5th minus 8x squared plus 6. All right, so those aren't too bad. You're really just adding and subtracting, but really watch your signs, because again, if that second expression that you're subtracting, you're going to have to make sure to change the sign of everything so that you don't accidentally get the wrong answer. So the arithmetic is not too bad. Just make sure to watch your signs. All right, I will see you in the next set of videos where we're going to evaluate some polynomial functions. I'll see you there.